10 unforgettable records. 10 legends who paid a price for them that no fan ever expected.
And don't you cry.
Welcome back to Soul Letters. I'm your host, and tonight we're going past the liner notes
Don't be afraid. Let me know.
to uncover what these hits actually cost the people who made them. A hotel window,
You don't like it. Don't like it.
a storm on a stage, a hospital bed that never let go. Stay with me, because number 1 on this list will absolutely wreck you. Number 10, Eddie Kendricks, Keep On Truckin', 1973. Eddie Kendricks spent over a decade lending his falsetto to the Temptations, carrying songs like The Way You Do the Things You Do and Just My Imagination into the history books. When he finally broke out on his own in 1973, Keep On Truckin' shot to number 1, making him the only member of that classic lineup to ever land a solo chart topper. Getting there wasn't free. To even walk away from Motown in 1978, Kendricks had to sign away his rights to future royalties on his own back catalog, trading away money he'd never see again just to gain control of his own career. Meanwhile, 3 decades of heavy smoking were quietly closing in on him. In 1991, doctors discovered cancer in one of his lungs and removed it in hopes of stopping the spread. He kept performing anyway, touring alongside his old friend David Ruffin even as his once effortless voice began to fail him. On October 5, 1993, Eddie Kendricks died of lung cancer in Birmingham, Alabama, at just 52 years old, another name added to the tragic list of Temptations who never made it to old age. Number 9, Wilson Pickett, Don't Knock My Love, 1971. Wilson Pickett's voice was pure fire. And Don't Knock My Love, in 1971, proved he could still command the charts years after his mid-60s breakout.
Don't be afraid. Let me know.
Fans called him the Wicked Pickett, and the nickname fit both his talent and his temper equally well. That temper eventually followed him off the stage. Through the 70s and beyond, Pickett's career kept colliding with legal trouble.
Don't knock it. Somebody else. If you don't need it, don't waste it.
Reckless driving, violent confrontations, arrests that painted a portrait of a man who couldn't contain the same intensity that made his records so electric in the first place.
Oh, baby. Yeah. Somebody else might want to taste it.
It only got worse from there. Substance abuse and run-ins with the law compounded through the 80s and 90s, at one point landing him behind bars and steadily chipping away at the touring schedule that had once been unstoppable.
Going on way around town.
By the 2000s, decades of hard living had caught up with his body completely. Wilson Pickett died of a heart attack on January 19, 2006.
Don't knock my love, baby. Yeah.
At 64 years old, the same fire that powered his greatest records finally burning out the man carrying it. Number 8, Millie Jackson, Hurt So Good, 1973. Millie Jackson had one of the most magnetic voices to come out of 70s soul.
Take my heart in the palm of your hands, and then you take my mind and play with it.
And Hurt So Good, lifted from the Cleopatra Jones soundtrack in 1973, showed off both her power and her fearless approach to storytelling.
You take my pride and you throw it up against the wall.
That fearlessness became her whole identity, and eventually her ceiling. Jackson built her live shows around raw, X-rated spoken word monologues about cheating and heartbreak.
Take my name, scandalize it in the street all night, and make sweet love to me. The thing you wanna do or say is alright with me.
material so explicit that mainstream radio and television routinely refused to touch it. Her core audience adored her precisely for that honesty, and she sold records steadily throughout the decade on the strength of it.
Baby, these things you're doing to me, it hurts so bad, but it's worth all the...
But the same reputation that made her a cult favorite in R&B also shut the door on the wider pop crossover success that safer, tamer peers were able to claim.
Please don't ever take the hurt off me. Hard for me to bear. Cause if it kills me, I don't care. Stop, baby. It hurts so good.
Millie Jackson never chased the mainstream stardom her talent probably deserved, because she refused to sand down the very edge that made her unforgettable. Number 7. Ann Peebles, I Can't Stand the Rain, 1973. Ann Peebles cut I Can't Stand the Rain in 1973 at High Records in Memphis.
I can't stand the rain.
The very same label and production team behind Al Green's biggest hits. Critics still call it one of the greatest soul records ever made, built around a drum machine intro that was years ahead of its time.
Against my window, bringing back sweet memories. The rain, do you remember?
But sharing a label with soul's biggest solo star came with a cost. High Records poured almost all of its promotional muscle behind Al Green, leaving Peebles with smaller budgets, less radio push, and far less name recognition. Despite delivering a record every bit as groundbreaking as anything he released, the song never became the crossover smash its influence deserved. Even though it's been sampled by Missy Elliott, praised for decades by fellow musicians, and covered again and again since it first came out. Ann Peebles made one of the most influential records of the entire decade, and spent years afterward watching the spotlight and the money drift toward her label's bigger name instead. Number 6. Esther Phillips, What a Difference a Day Makes, 1975. Esther Phillips had already lived an entire career by the time What a Difference a Day Makes became her biggest hit in 1975.
What a difference a day makes.
A disco-tinged reinvention of the Dinah Washington standard that finally pushed her into the pop top 20 after decades in the business.
24 little hours and the flowers, and there used to be rain.
Behind that comeback was a brutal history with heroin that stretched back to her teenage years in the 1950s, one that had her cycling in and out of rehab for most of her adult life.
Today I'm a part of you, dear.
Just 3 years earlier, at the 1972 Grammys, she'd lost Best R&B Vocal Performance to Aretha Franklin for her own raw song about addiction.
Says she said you were mine. What a difference a day makes.
And Aretha, moved by that struggle, walked over and handed Phillips the trophy herself. Even that gesture couldn't stop what came next.
Skies above can be stormy. That thrilling kiss, it's heaven when you...
The addiction that shaped her voice never fully let go, and years of substance abuse steadily broke her body down long after the hits had stopped coming.
And the difference is you. But there used to be rain. My lonely nights are through, dear. What a difference a day makes.
On August 7th, 1984, Esther Phillips died of liver and kidney failure at just 48 years old. The same demons that gave her music its ache, ultimately the thing that took her life. Number 5. David Ruffin, Walk Away from Love, 1975.
It's not that I don't love you.
David Ruffin's voice defined the Temptations' golden years, but by 1968, his ego and his growing drug habit had gotten him pushed out of the group entirely.
You know how much I do. It's not that I found someone.
His solo career struggled to match that legacy until Walk Away from Love became a massive hit in 1975, one of only two major solo successes he'd ever have.
Just to feel the feels within me.
That success didn't fix what was underneath it. Ruffin had already entered treatment for cocaine as early as 1967,
A dread that shakes my body.
and despite reunion tours through the 80s with fellow ex-Temptations Eddie Kendricks and Dennis Edwards, he never fully broke free of the habit that had derailed him from the start.
Believing I'm gonna walk away from.
By 1991, Ruffin was living in Philadelphia, still performing, still beloved, but still using. In the early hours of June 1st, a friend drove him to a house in West Philadelphia, where he smoked crack cocaine before collapsing.
It's gonna take everything I've got. Keep walking out the door.
He was dropped off at a hospital emergency room with no identification and died less than 2 hours later.
Breaks my heart.
It took a fingerprint check just to confirm that the unidentified man on the table was David Ruffin, one of the greatest voices Motown ever produced. Number 4, Paul Williams with The Temptations. Ball of Confusion, 1970. Paul Williams co-founded The Temptations and sang lead on some of their earliest hits.
People moving out, people moving in.
And by 1970, he was still standing with the group for Ball of Confusion, one of their most socially charged records, even as his health was quietly collapsing behind the scenes. Williams had battled sickle cell disease his entire life, and the constant pain pushed him toward heavy drinking that eventually damaged his liver beyond repair. In 1971, doctors found the damage severe enough to force him into retirement, right at the height of the Temptations' fame. His bandmates kept him on payroll and tried to help him rebuild.
The only person talking about love and brother is a preacher. Sell the pills at an all-time high. Say you pull up.
And by 1973, he was finally back in the studio recording solo material. It never got the chance to reach the world the way he'd hoped.
Revolution, revolution, got control the sound, so tune like it's tune.
On August 17, 1973, Paul Williams was found dead in his car in a Detroit alley, ruled a suicide by the coroner.
Where the world's headed, nobody knows.
Hear me talking to you just about the future. That's what the world is today.
Though his family has questioned that ruling for over 50 years since. He was 34 years old, gone right as he was trying to reclaim the career his own body had taken from him. Number 3, Sly Stone, Family Affair, 1971. Sly and the Family Stone were one of the most groundbreaking bands in music history. And Family Affair gave them a number 1 hit in 1971, a haunting, drum machine-driven record that redefined what funk could sound like. Behind that boundary-pushing sound was a man increasingly consumed by drugs, missing shows so often that Sly Stone No Show became an industry punchline, and the band that once defined unity collapsed under the very excess that had powered its biggest records.
Thicker than the mud. It's a family affair.
The decline stretched on for decades. Stone sold off his own music publishing rights in 1984, cycled through arrests,
A year ago, still checking.
and by 2011 was discovered living out of a camper van parked on a residential street in Los Angeles, relying on a retired couple nearby just to eat and shower.
Nobody wants to be left out.
He eventually got clean, published a memoir, and lived to see his legacy celebrated in a Questlove documentary before he died on June 9, 2025.
Cause your heart is there. And you.
At 82, after a long battle with lung disease, the man who helped invent an entire sound spent far too many years paying for it in poverty and isolation. Number 2, Curtis Mayfield, Move On Up, 1970. Curtis Mayfield had already reshaped soul music with The Impressions before Move On Up launched his solo career in 1970. An anthem of self-determination that became one of the defining records of the decade. 2 years later, Superfly would cement him as one of the genre's most important voices.
So in the meantime, you may find from time to time.
2 decades of momentum ended in a single gust of wind. On August 13, 1990, while performing at an outdoor concert in Brooklyn, a storm toppled a lighting rig onto the stage, and it struck Mayfield directly on the back of the neck, crushing 3 vertebrae in an instant. He survived, but he would never walk, play guitar, or sing the same way again, paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of his life.
You want to do into the steeple of beautiful people.
Remarkably, he kept creating anyway, recording his final album, New World Order, by lying flat on his back and singing one line at a time.
You can surely do it. Bring to your attention once again the gentleman on keyboard. Introduce this gentleman who really needs no introduction. See what he's all about. Rumors people say, cause you can pass the test. We gotta do is
Curtis Mayfield died on December 26, 1999, at 57 years old, from health complications tied to that single freak accident, a career-ending moment that came down to nothing more than bad weather and worse luck. Number 1, Natalie Cole, This Will Be an Everlasting Love, 1975. Natalie Cole stepped out from the shadow of her father, jazz legend Nat King Cole, and did it on her own terms. This Will Be an Everlasting Love exploded in 1975, and the following year she became the first African American and the first R&B artist ever to win the Grammy for Best New Artist.
The one I've waited for. This will be the first time anyone has loved me.
The same year her career was taking off, Natalie Cole was arrested in Toronto for heroin possession, the first visible crack in a drug problem that had actually started years earlier at college and would define the next decade of her life.
I'm so glad he found me in time.
Cocaine and heroin use spiraled out of control through the late 70s and early 80s, at one point leaving her young son to nearly drown in the family pool while she was lost in a binge.
So glad that he rectified my mind. This will be an everlasting love for me.
She finally checked into rehab in 1983 and got sober for good, rebuilding one of the most celebrated comebacks in music history. But her body never fully recovered from those years. In 2008, she was diagnosed with hepatitis C, contracted from infected needles decades earlier, and the treatment for it triggered total kidney failure, forcing her onto dialysis 3 times a week.
You've given me the thrill of a lifetime, yeah, and made me believe you got more feels to spare. Everlasting love, oh yes.
Until a stranger's donated kidney saved her life in 2009. It bought her 6 more years, but it wasn't enough.
You brought a light of sunshine into my life. Never knew you gave me more joy than you and me. So long as I'm living true, love, I'll be giving
On December 31st, 2015, Natalie Cole died at 65 from complications tied to that same illness, the addiction she'd beaten decades earlier, still finding a way to collect its final payment.